This morning we've got a special treat. We've got our Region 4 director here, Rob Bledsoe. He's going to talk about creating competitive off-season, 10 steps to organize a healthy and competitive spirit for your fall off-season. So I'm really excited about this. I know he's put a lot of time and work into it, and we've talked about this for a couple of weeks, that he had this awesome message. So I can't wait to see what he's got to say.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, on this Champions League final weekend. I've got my Bayern Munich shirt on. I'm typically a Manchester United fan, but I didn't want to see Jimmy jump in the comments with this Liverpool garbage. So we're supporting Bayern Munich this weekend. All right. First, I do want to thank my wife, my very talented wife, for making this pretty. This was just a black and white slideshow at first, and she said I couldn't embarrass myself by doing that. So she made it a lot more pleasing and appetizing. So this presentation is on creating a competitive off-season, but with a healthy spirit, something that doesn't get too toxic, and then also kind of addressing the mental needs of your program and your players. One of the most important steps to this, though, the first thing you got to have is you got to have a badass assistant, and I think I have that in Greg Gutierrez. He was the Region 4 Assistant of the Year this past year, and he helped me put this together. So if you have a good assistant, lean on them. You know, especially if they're young and they've got new, fresh ideas, they're going to help you a lot, because you know the only two people that can't learn are the dead man and the idiot. So I think I've leaned on him a little bit more than normal, and I doubt I'll have him much longer than past this season, because he's going to be a great head coach one day. So I do appreciate him. Okay, so the 10 steps to organizing a healthy, competitive spirit for your fall off-season. One of the first things that you need is a mission statement and core beliefs. So that's step one. Your mission statement, we are kind of like a business. We need to know what we're all about. And the mission statement, that is going to be when a player goes through the 4 years of your program, what do you want to accomplish? You know, is it wins? Is it building a better person? Whatever. That is something that you want to see growth in, and this is a 4-year project, that mission statement. Your core beliefs, those are the non-negotiables. If you're going to be a part of this program, this is what you need to be. These are our expectations. And here's a couple of examples of what we have at O'Connor High School. The O'Connor soccer program will prepare the members of the program for life after high school by recognizing the beliefs of discipline, perseverance, teamwork, and self-confidence. Okay, and then again, the core beliefs. This is something that if you are having some discipline issues and somebody's not fulfilling their end of the bargain about being a part of the program, you can refer to this. Our core beliefs say that we have to show discretion on social media, and you kind of cross the line there. But again, these are the non-negotiables. These two things should not change too much. You might need to have some tweaks here and there, but this should be the same year to year to year. Again, you might have to add some stuff as you see fit, but these are kind of etched in stone. The next thing, an action plan. This is something that probably should change year to year based on the players in your program at that time, considering who left, who's coming up, that kind of thing. And that is going to be, what are we going to do to be successful as a team this year? So for example, at O'Connor High School, again, I guess I need to back up. I'm at San Antonio O'Connor High School. We are in the North Side District in San Antonio. The district is extremely competitive. We have 11 teams in our ISD. Over the past 10 years, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 different teams in the regional final. So there's a lot of parity. This past year, teams that within the past 5 years were in the regional tournament didn't even make the playoffs. So again, there's a lot of ups and downs. And at O'Connor High School, we aren't blessed with super duper high level club players, where if we get 2 or 3 that are on the top team in their competitive club, we feel pretty fortunate. So our action plan this year, we're going to use our athleticism. We do have some athletes. We do have some speed and quickness, maybe not the most technical. So our action plan this year, we're going to use our athleticism to pressure our opponent in the defensive half. We're going to use quick penetrating passes out of the back, targeted balls behind so we can get in behind them. And then defensively, we're going to use a combination of zonal and marking defense. So again, this might change if in a few years we get some super technical players, or maybe we don't have the speed and athleticism. This action plan will change. But this is the whole, if we're planning our week, 6 weeks or whatever, what are we doing that fits into this? You know, we're not going to do a bunch of tiki-taka, two-touch in a small space. It might help us from time to time, but more so, what are we good at and how we're going to use that to effectively beat our opponent? So that's the action plan. Mission statement, core beliefs, action plan. Next thing is you want to grade your players. This is going to be competitive. Feelings are going to get hurt, but also challenges are going to be laid to your players. So they deserve your respect and honesty. If we're not honest with our players, the kids are going to see through it. And if you're too scared to tell a kid, hey, you're just not good enough, there's going to be problems because there's going to be infighting. They don't have to like it, but if they don't accept it, they don't have to be a part of your program. So we use a 25-point scale to grade our players. And what we like to do is also have them self-rate using this these categories here. And you'll notice that your better players, the really high-skilled ones, they are going to be a lot more hard on themselves than normal. And then also on the other end of the spectrum, you're going to see some kids that, you know, maybe they play at a lower level club, but they're really, really good on that team. And they're not really in touch with reality. And this is a good time to have that conversation with them about, well, I just don't see that. But again, this is what we use, scale of 1 to 5. And do whatever's good for you, whatever fits your program and your kids. But we say 1 would be a poor player, 3 would be your average varsity player, and then 5 means that he's probably all region or he's one of the best at that skill. And using that, we kind of use about the 17.5 rating would be the lowest varsity player. That way you can kind of judge and manipulate some of these scores. We kind of get the end score at first and then kind of massage the numbers to get to that total. But it is really good to challenge the kids. One year we had a kind of a keeper battle where I made sure that their total number was the exact same to challenge them, just so that they didn't think, well, he rates this one, he rates him above me. I wanted them to know that they were even and that they needed to do something to separate themselves. And then this is a great opportunity for you to point out some things. With that, one of the last ones, the commitment consistency. We had a kid that very talented, very athletic, but wasn't fully committed. And on his self-evaluation, he gave himself a 4. And this was a good opportunity to sit him down and say, are you kidding me? You know, I've had to separate you from practice sessions because you're fighting with your brother the whole time. And, you know, you are impeding progress. And this was a good opportunity for me to say, this is what frustrates me, is that you don't recognize that. So again, this is a good tool for you to let the players know where they stand in your mind. Maybe not in their mind, not their parents' mind or their club coach, because the only thing that's important is how you rate them. And this is a good way to do that. And then again, it's a good challenge. Those kids that are maybe a JV player and then you rate them at 16 and you say, hey, you know, if you really work on your technical ability, if you bump that number, that 2.5 to a 3 to a 3.5, you got a shot. So it's a good way to challenge your kids and give them an opportunity to let them know how you view them. Step 4. This is where you want to kind of figure out, kind of goes with the action plan. What formation are we going to play so we can start plugging some kids in? So define a few general roles and responsibilities for those positions that you're going to employ that season. So that, again, you can kind of say, all right, you know, Steve, you fit here. Carol, you fit here. So here's an example of if you're running a 3-4-3, maybe a 4-4-2, whatever. You want your forwards to do this. You want your wingers to stay high and wide, and if they get 1v1, go past them. So that way you can start talking to some kids that maybe, hey, in club, I play outside mid, but they have no stamina and no speed. And this is where you can kind of point out that, hey, you know, if you're going to be a winger or an outside mid, we need you to go past people. So if you're not fast enough to do that, we might have to slide you into a 6 or something like that. Or, you know, obviously if it's a forward, if a kid can't hold up or if he can't finish, then, you know, I don't care what you play in club. This is what we need you to do. These are the things that we want you to recognize. Or, you know, if a kid, you know, for a center mid, one of the things that I want my center mids to be is very economical with their touches. We don't need you on the ball too much. We need, you know, receive, change point of attack. And if a kid dribbles too much, then we might want to say, hey, you know, you say you're a center mid. In our system, we might need to put you out wide. Now you can take people on, you know, because it's all about your system, not what they do in club or what they watch on TV. So those roles and responsibilities help you plug the kids in to where they're going to benefit you. Step 5, develop a depth chart. Again, this goes along with the honesty. This goes along with some of those tough conversations that you're going to need to have with the kids. They need to see where you see them. And this is a good way, especially in that preseason. You might have a sophomore that thinks he's going to be on varsity. Oh, what we got? Do I need to change anything? This is a good way for that kid that's a sophomore that you want to maybe let him know, hey, we kind of don't see you as a varsity player. You might want to consider accepting that role of being a leader on the JV. Or if you have a junior that sees himself as maybe a, you know, varsity kid, but you just don't see it, this is where you tackle that issue, because it's going to be an issue. And the question that you need to answer is, do I want to address this issue in the preseason or during the season? Because it's going to come up. It's not going to go away. The more you ignore it, the more you're just kicking the can down the road. So when you set this depth chart, you're letting them know, this is where I see you. And you can have that conversation if they do bring it up again. No, we talked about this. There are X number of kids above you in the pecking order. So nothing has changed. You know, nobody has left the program, and we don't see you that you've improved that much. So it lets them know where they stand. Again, that honesty part. So, you know, you have that depth chart, and if you look at, you know, at the wingers, if you get down to Aiden down there and you say, hey, Aiden, you're the number 5 outside mid winger, whatever. And if he's a sophomore, you might want to say, you know, if you want to accept being the, you know, 3rd or 4th, maybe 5th kid off the bench on varsity, we're not going to do that. We're not going to waste your sophomore year with you being buried on the bench on varsity. You know, the letter jacket's nice, that recognition is nice, but we need you to play. And that's that real talk. That's what they deserve. That's that honesty that they need, because they might have somebody in their life that's not giving them the honesty that they really need. Step 6, competitions. So again, we are not blessed with kids where we can just roll the ball out and they're going to just start carving up the field. So we need kids to play hard. We need kids that are going to go out there and compete. One of my proudest seasons as a coach was the year that we won 4 games total a few years ago. We weren't good. We were not good at all. And told Walter Rule, who was in the district at the time, we might win 3 games this year. We won 4, so I was pretty happy with that. But I knew we weren't going to be good, but we competed. We never lost a game by more than 2 goals. And 2 of the teams in our district made the regional tournament. But we competed. We battled our tails off every game. And that competitive spirit, it's not a switch. It's something that's established in your off season. It's a mentality that starts with the first second of practice. So if you can get that competitive spirit in practice, it's going to translate to your games. So here are some, I'm just listed some examples right here. So there are 6 competitions that I think can help you identify some responsibilities or some functions that your players might be able to bring to the program, but in a competitive way, not just, hey, we're going to cross today, or hey, we're going to kick, we're going to shoot penalties. So I've got these 6 things. We got soccer, volleyball, or soccer, tennis. You've all seen that before. Our tennis coach, she's not very accommodating to the soccer players on our tennis court. So we have to set it up on the field with a channel instead of a net. And I'll show you the rules on that in a second, some that I really like as well. 1v1, so we can look at kids that like to take people on, or defenders that are really good defending 1v1. We play horseshoes, and again, I've got the rules for that that I'll show you in a second. And that's really good with identifying somebody that can put a ball where it needs to be. Super PKs, it's PK battle, but with some extra rules that kind of ratchet up the competition. And then it's finishing, but more so it's about pressure. And that's one of the great things about these competitions. We all know, if you've been around long enough, we've been around players that are incredibly talented, but they don't have that fire. They don't have that drive. And this exposes those kids. On the flip side, though, we've come across freshmen or sophomores that they're not scared. And this helps them shine. This helps those upperclassmen that maybe you might have seen it, but the upperclassmen didn't. This helps them recognize, hey, this kid, he's going to battle. She's going to show up when the pressure's on. And those super PKs, that really helps expose that. I've had a senior captain before in a game tell me, hey, if we get a penalty, I don't want to take it. And that told me a lot about that kid. I mean, he was a heck of a player for us, but that told me a lot about him. Push-ups and planks, I am not a big weight room guy. I've never lost a game and thought, dang it, that team was a lot stronger. I bet you all those 11 could bench more than our kids. I've never thought that, but the push-ups and planks kind of show those kids that do have a little bit of upper body strength and again, this is competition. This is going to show you who's strong. And then that kid that does finish very high on there, or that team that finishes there, they get to puff their chest out a little bit. And then always like a track meet, and that's going to help reward those kids that are pretty quick or that have some stamina, because we have some different races in that. So let me go through some of them. So soccer, volleyball, again, we've all played soccer, tennis before. And then, like I said, we don't get to get on the tennis courts as much as we like, if at all. So we set up a couple of channels, or a couple of squares with the channel in between, and the channel in between is our net. But what I noticed when I just said, just play, it's a big mash of kids, and then the same kid ends up serving. So I like to set it up like volleyball, where there's 2 rows of 3. And there's rotations like in volleyball. You're going to have to teach your kids that, because they don't understand how to rotate in volleyball. And that way, and we'll talk about setting the teams in a little bit. That way, when you rotate kids on and off, everybody gets on the field, hopefully. And then again, you don't get that same kid serving every time. But there's some of the rules that we use there, and make sure you do have some time limits on. Sometimes, you might go a little bit longer. But again, I like the soccer volleyball aspect of it, because you get those rotations. Some kids, the better kids always want to be on that front row and, knocking balls down with their head. This way, a kid that maybe doesn't like receiving the ball, he's going to be exposed right there. And then again, you get to have those conversations with him about, you don't receive the ball very well. Super penalties. All right, this is what I like to do. So instead of just regular PKs, we cone off a spot 3 yards behind the PK spot at 15, and then at the top of the 18. And that way you have this point system to where there's got to be some strategy in there. So you get your 5 shooters, and make sure that the order is set beforehand so they know. And then another thing on this, if whoever the next shooter is, he's got to have ball in hand, or they're going to be penalized a point. Otherwise, the shooter's up and they're looking for soccer balls, and it takes forever. So the next shooter up should have a ball in hand ready to go as quick as possible, or again, that team's going to be penalized. So you get that penalty spot is worth a point, 15 yards is worth 2 points, and the 18 is worth 3. And the order that you go kind of does help function this. You can go like regular penalties, where it's the same first shooter every time. you can go snake and alternate that first shooter, whatever team is shooting. Or you can kind of go like washers or horseshoes or whatever, and whatever team is in the lead shoots first. And this is where you get, that fifth shooter's up, the team's down 2. He's got to shoot from the top of the 18, and he's got to bury that ball for them to win. You get to see what kids, you can look in their eyes and you can know, either this ball's going in or this ball's going in the parking lot. So it's a really fun thing to see what they do. And then you also get to see some kids that don't have a good soccer IQ, I guess. We had one where the team was down, they were down 1. And instead of going for the 1 for the tie or the 2 for the win, he wanted to go for the 3. And he was the last shooter. And everybody's like, well, you just shoot the 1 or the 2. He's like, no, I got this. And then he put it into the parking lot. It was great. But again, that's a fun competition to do. Try to, when you are setting your teams, we'll talk about that in a little bit, try to put a keeper on each team if you can, or this might be a good way for you to find out your third string keeper, or maybe a JV kid that can be your JV keeper, because, don't get a whole lot of times to see kids that don't normally play keeper, maybe get to see what they can do. Horseshoes, this is one that I like to do. This is a good recovery day activity as well. Set either flags or cones up the width of the 18, and then cone off a 20 by 20 square around that. And then I like to make sure the kids are hitting a moving soccer ball, because we're not working on set pieces here. In the game, that ball is going to kind of be moving. So team A, their crosser will hit a moving ball, and then team A's teammates are across the way, and maybe there's 1 or 2 in that square. Ball's got to fly in the air to one of those teammates, and that teammate has 1 touch, and he's trying to deaden it to as close to the flag as he can get it. Team B, same thing. 1 team scores. You get that 1 point, and if the ball goes outside of that 20 by 20 square, nobody gets a point. If you're doing it with the JV, you might have to do 1 bounce if the kids don't have the leg strength to get it across. But again, this is a good recovery day activity that's just working on, lofting some shots. In the past, I've even gone double points for non-dominant foot on the cross, if you want to do that. But this is a good way to see who can strike a ball, who can place a ball, who your David Beckham in the program is. And then, there's some rules for it if you want that. Okay, so there's some other competitions. You guys can organize your track meet as you want, or push-ups and planks. I just wanted to list a few of my favorite competitions. All right, so as I was saying, if you can, try to get 4 teams. I like to get a competition done in one day, with the first round's the semifinal, next round's the final, and then 3rd and 4th place. So get those 4 teams so that you can give 4 points for the champion, 3 for runner-up, 2 and 1, that kind of thing. And as I was saying earlier, if you can, try to spread out the keepers if you can. It doesn't have to be when you rate your kids, top, second, and all that kind of stuff. Do it how it fits you, but try to keep them as balanced as possible. And next one, you really need to map out a schedule. You need to think of, yes, we're coaches, but we're also teachers. And the best teachers have lesson plans, or at least a destination where you want to get to. So you need to think 3, 6, if not 9 weeks ahead of time. And in a typical year, this year's kind of messed up with COVID, but you need to look ahead into the schedule, and you need to look for those days where you can't be there, holidays, or maybe you've got a TASCO meeting where you have to get a sub for, something like that. But look ahead into the schedule and look for opportunities to put in these competition days, or maybe small-sided games to add in there. And then also some days where you might go to your classroom and talk. So here's an example of a calendar where you're working in the skills that you need, rondos. Then I always like to pair competitions with fitness, because some competitions might take the whole time. Some of them are pretty quick. So I can always work in, all right, we finished up, let's, do whatever kind of fitness that you want to do. So that you're not sitting there for 10 minutes just kind of talking or whatever. But then also I work with the kicker on the football team. So there's days where I might have to, knock out a little early, and then my assistant coach G has to take over. And I don't want him to have 50 kids to corral. So we might have to think ahead. Hey, remember next week, I've got to be out of town for this. This is what we're going to do. You got to plan ahead that way. Just again, like we do in the classroom. If you just show up and think, hey, we're going to play soccer, you're not going to be that good. So plan ahead if you can. Use your calendar as a tool that's going to help you be a better coach. In that calendar, make sure you set some classroom time for some meetings to talk to your kids, to help address some issues that maybe are off the field. We've heard it all the time that 50% of the game is mental, but we don't spend 50% of the time as a coach addressing the mental aspects of the game. So if you don't address them and they become a problem, that's your fault. If you have a toxic culture and you ignore it and you say, I'm going to let my seniors take care of it, it's not going to get taken care of. It's up to us. And again, part of that mission statement is to become a better person, to become a confident person. And if we aren't talking to our kids and figuring out what's stressing them out, or maybe what they lack confidence in, then we aren't doing our part. Because, again, another cliche, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And when you invest in those kids mentally, not just on the soccer field, good shot, but recognizing that we all have issues, and we have to address those issues. So put some time into your calendar that allows you to talk to those kids. And then I like to use Maslow's hierarchy during this time as well. So the 5 levels, the first one, physiological needs. Make sure that you know that you're going to have to put some water breaks in there. Talk to your kids about a healthy diet and hydration. They need to be drinking water, especially in this preseason, all day. When you're thirsty, it's too late. And then talk to them about their diet. If their diet is Takis and Red Bull, it's going to affect them. So talk to them about what a good diet looks like. Also, you need to think about, if you're going to do this off season, what equipment do you need, or maybe what equipment do the kids need? We all have encountered kids that you see their shoes and you realize that those shoes don't fit. So if you need to pull a kid aside and say, hey, what can I do to help? Can I see if I can get a donation, go to the booster club to help you out with practice gear or something like that. And then also ahead of time, you need to think about, do I want all my kids in the same top? Whatever, some of us are big into that. We've got an athletic coordinator that wants every team sport to look like a team. They don't all have to have the same one. The different sports don't have to have the same one, but he wants the teams to look like teams out there. So that's one of those basic things that you need to think about. Level 2 is the personal safety. Make sure you know what's your locker and locker room situation. You really need to, especially those freshmen, you need to let them know if those lockers aren't locked and something gets stolen, it's not the thief's fault. It's your fault for not locking it. Talk about tackling standards. I don't address this enough, or I have to address it when it's too late, when you have to pull a kid aside and say, hey, we don't go to ground in rondos with teammates, that kind of stuff. Grade checks are very important. You need to think about, look ahead into the calendar and talk about those grade checks. And you might even want to talk about, hey, you are ineligible for the competition this week because you would not be eligible if we were in games. If this were the season, you wouldn't be able to compete. Therefore, you're not going to be able to compete in this competition if the grades are so bad. You also need to think about a method to maybe anonymously allow the kids to let you know about some bullying. As cognizant as we are of things going on, things happen, whether it be around the corner as soon as they turn the corner from the locker room, or on social media, or in the halls in class. Give them an opportunity to let you know what's causing them anxiety, or ways that you can assist them. I've got the anxieties and assists there. So you might want to do that in those classroom sessions as kind of an exit slip, where you just give everybody a piece of paper with assists and anxieties title on it, and they have to turn it in. So, that way If you don't force them to turn it in, their kids are going to watch that one kid that does turn in the paper. Make them all turn it in, and that way you can know that, oh, okay, this kid, he's been getting picked on a little bit, and I was not aware of that. Or the kid might let you know something that you had no idea about on the assist. Hey, this kid's going through some stuff at home. That makes a lot of sense. I've noticed that he's become a different kind of player. This gives them the opportunity to talk to you without having to talk to you. I'm sure your trainers have talked to you about it. Bad weather plans. We get those storms that pop up out of nowhere, or when lightning starts popping. What's your plan? Do you leave everything? Where do you go? That sort of thing. The injured player procedure. That's something that I still struggle with. It's really tough for me to keep tabs on. Our training office is so far away from our soccer field that I'll have to think to myself, I haven't seen Johnny in the past 3 days. I need to go talk to our trainer and see what's going on. So what is the injured player procedure? Make sure you talk to your trainers about, are you getting emails? Are you getting updates on SportsU app or what? How do you know how a kid is progressing, if he's better or not? Because I'm guilty of it, where a kid was cleared. I didn't realize it, but the kid slipped off. He fell through the cracks and I had no idea. Or another thing is, we all get those kids who they show up in street clothes and you're like, hey, what's going on, Isaac? And he says, well, my mom says I need to rest my ankle. We get those kids. Make sure your players know that the trainers, if this is the system in your school, the trainers will designate whether they are eligible to play or not, or if they're injured or not. Again, these freshmen every year, they test us with the, hey, my mom says that I've got a big game this weekend, so I'm not going to be practicing. They need to know that that's not the procedure and the plan of how you do it. Level 3 in the hierarchy of needs, love and belonging, team building activities. That's probably my biggest struggle, because I'm not a big, bang the bongos and sing Kumbaya as we sit in a circle type of guy. And I'm old, and I'm old school. You rolled the ball out and you played. I need to get better at this thing. And that's where every opportunity I get to learn about some team building activities, I try to see what I can absorb and utilize, because I don't do a good enough job of it, but it's necessary. We all know that if we don't feel a part of something, we're not going to give it our all. And on the flip side, once we feel acceptance and we realize that, hey, these guys, they like me and they want me to be a part of it, now you're in, and they're going to be bought in. The team competitions, again, soccer, there's winners and losers. Sometimes there's draws, but there needs to be competitions. There needs to be times where there are celebrations, and there needs to be times where there's losers. What did we do that prevented us from success? And if you don't have that competitive spirit, if you're just doing a rondo for 20 minutes with no purpose and no winners and no losers, then you're not getting your all, because it's different. When the team on the other side wants to win and you want to play, you're probably not going to get 3 points. So, look for opportunities. With rondo, sometimes I will, if I see the level of play is kind of slacked, I will say, possession in 30 seconds wins, losers have 10 push-ups. And you'll see that the competition ratchets up. The speed of play gets very, very intense. So look for opportunities to where you can make things competitive, whether it be a shooting drill or a rondo. Also look for cliques that start to form. And we see it. There's a pecking order. People get into sports because they are competitive. So look for those and see if you are setting teams for this or that. Try to split those up as best you can, because outsiders, again, they're not going to be invested as much as someone who feels like they're a part of the team. Also, look for ways to integrate your younger players with your older players, because I know G at A&M has always said this, if you treat a freshman like a freshman, she's going to play like a freshman. So we want to let them know that, the soccer ball doesn't care what grade you're in, and that you don't either. You just want somebody that's going to help you be successful and be a part of a good program. And then look for how those kids are behaving outside the lines. How are they acting in class? Look for how they behave on social media. And if you need to have those talks, if they're posting stuff about how, life is awful and all of that, you need to sit them down, because that is them calling out for attention. And sometimes they don't get it, or they get the wrong reinforcement from their friends. So if you can, try to, look for them in the hallway. How are they acting? Who are they running with also? Birds of a feather flock together. So if somebody is running with some people that are a bad influence, you need to have that talk with them. Hey, I'm not telling you who your friends are need to be, but if you see yourself in situations where you think that's going to put the reputation of the program in danger, then yeah, you do need to stop hanging out with that person. So look for that. Level 4, esteem, self-esteem. Make sure you do have updates to that depth chart. Sit down every 3, 6, 9 weeks with that original score and talk to them. Hey, you've gone up, you've gone down, you stayed the same. So that if that kid has been really working hard and has improved on that, they need to hear it from you. This is a token society. The kids need treats to realize that, hey, I have recognized your intensity. Flip side, if you see a kid that maybe got a really high score at first and they think that, they're sitting pretty, you need to let them know, hey, I've noticed that your intensity has slacked. You've fallen behind so-and-so on the depth chart. They need to see that, because our depth chart during the season is playing time. It's very, very tangible. They need to see it before that, so that they keep their competitive spirit up. Because if they're not competing in practice, they're not going to compete when it matters. So those player evaluations help that out. Make sure that the players in your program have clearly defined roles. Make sure that they know where they fit. When we need this, you are the person. Who's going to be taking the penalties? Who's going to be the person that's going to help defend? And these happen with one-on-one conversations. The big talk to everybody, the last 5 minutes, and you might think, hey, this is for so-and-so, and this speech is all for that person. If you aren't 1v1 saying that conversation to that person, they don't know it's for them. Okay. A lot of kids have blinders on to their, to whatever's going on negatively in their life. So you need to have those one-on-one conversations, even if they are a little rough sometimes. And then most importantly, for the self-esteem, recognize individual excellence. If you get a break on that one freshman because they had a good day, do it. That will brighten their day. If you have some kind of belt or trophy for whoever wins whatever competition, do that, because this is a token society. Self-actualization. This is where that kid realizes, I've done this, and this is the result of it. So have them set some goals at the beginning of the year. Make sure that you know where they think they want to be 6 months from now, because otherwise they're going to wander. Have them set goals academically, athletically, whatever, in 6 months, 4 years. If we don't know our destination, we're going to get lost. So have these kids set some targets what they want to achieve, and have it be realistic targets. I had a kid as a senior, and I said, where are you thinking about going to school and that kind of stuff? And he's like, oh, I'd really like to play at SMU. And I'm like, okay, you're coming off the bench at a mid-table high school and you want to go play at SMU, do you? So have those conversations with those kids and make sure that they know that they do have some attainable goals. When you do have the opportunity to go 11v11, if you do have a filmer, which is fantastic, it is a great asset to have. Go over those scrimmages, or have the kids do some huddle assignments where you tell them, hey, these 15 minutes where we went full field, analyze yourself, or, figure out what was good, what was bad, what was effective, and what do we need to improve on. And that way they see that the big eye in the sky, don't lie. And they realize that, maybe they're not getting back on defense as much, or maybe they do pass negative too much. Yeah, it's a completed pass, but it was negative. So make sure that they know where they stand in your eyes. And then step 10, update the standings and individual stats as much as possible. Again, if we are just a coach during our athletic period, we're doing a disservice to our athletes. You got to put the time in, outside of the school hours and do those things and post those standings in the locker room or on social media. These kids, you guys that do actually do post on Twitter and whatnot, the retweets that those kids get, they are so proud. So every chance you get to hype those kids up, to let them know that they are doing well, do it and say it loud, because that fosters so much pride and it fosters that competitive spirit once again, which is what we're looking for. All right, questions. Let's see here. Yeah, I do need you. I need the brains of the operation in here to figure out this technical stuff. These old guys here. I need my abacus. The chat.
You need to make everybody.
Yeah, we got to make everybody the. Menu. Oh, for allow participants. If you do have any questions, you can post them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them.
You do.
Oh. There we go. Oh.
Did it happen?
I don't know. Greg, do you see any questions? Okay. Can we see everybody's screen?
Not yet. You want to stop sharing?
What does that mean? Oh, we like sharing. I was taught to share. Do we need to unmute everybody? Okay. There we go. All right. Any questions? Oh, yeah, we do need to unmute everybody. Huh? Oh, you can unmute themselves. There we go. Questions, comments, clarifications? The 1v1 battle. Yeah. So I get a big square, cone off the corners about 5 yards deep. So about a 20 by 20 square, cone off the corners about 5 deep on each side, and then make it to where it's a triangle, to where somebody is, the teams are going to be diagonal from each other. So team A, diagonal from each other, one person in the triangle, and then a line behind them. And then team B, same setup, diagonally away from each other. One player from team A, one player from team B in the middle. Me as the coach, I have a ball in hand and some next to me, and I toss a ball up, and they have to win the ball and play to a teammate. That's a point. When that person in the corner receives the ball through that channel, otherwise they just kick it around and they kind of cheat to get it. But that's a point. So team A wins the ball, passes to teammate in the corner. That person advances. The person that played it goes to the back of that line. That person, team A winner that just came in and scored the point, his or her goal is to play it to the teammate on the other side. They can't just enter, turn around, and then play it right back to the next person in line until the ball is touched. So once it's touched, it's open to play to either channel or to either corner of your teammates. When the ball goes out of the square, I have that ball in hand, that next one, I'm going to throw it in the middle. There's a race to get it, and then play to the corners. Always have a group of soccer balls next to you so you can put those balls back in play. And then play to whatever number you want to right there, 10, 15, whatever. It's a good way to figure out who can defend, because you'll see the kids just running in circles chasing the person with the ball. Or you can see those guys that have some sauce that can just smoke people. It's a fun one to do. On social media, do you actively seek out social media to give them feedback, or just see if the negative things fall in their lap? A lot of times I rely on teammates, snitches, because I am on social media, but I don't follow all my kids, thankfully, in the program. because some of them are pretty weird. But I do look for people to kind of let me know, hey, so-and-so said this and that way you can pull them in. Also, I have a athletic coordinator who is very diligent, and I've been called in a few times about, hey, have you seen this? And yeah, that's not how I want it to be too often, but yeah, I have been the victim of that. So I do encourage them to be good people on social media and to make good choices, but I'm probably not the best at monitoring that. And again, that's kind of where you can rely on your captains as well, and let them know, hey, I am not real tech savvy. I'm not on the the Snapchats too often. You guys need to let me know that this is our program, but this is your team, and how you act and how your teammates act represents you as well. What else y'all got out there? Any other questions?
Hey, Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, it might be a good time to go ahead and pull in everybody's panelists, and then we can free talk. So sometimes they'll ask more at that point. So if you go to the right-hand side in the, I'm sorry. Yeah, go to the participants.
Where?
And if you right click, yep, on the bottom.
On the bottom?
Yeah, it should have a.
Lauren,
Yes,
we've already done that. We're already a panelist, so we're good.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Sorry about that. I'm on the phone on the road.
Hey, 10 and 2.
I apologize.
No problem.
Yep. Safety first here, pal. All right. Sorry about that.
All right.
Yeah, he's ahead of things, so we're good.
Yeah, he's big time. All right. Thank you. Sorry about that. Good. All right. I'm going silent again.
Okay. Anybody think PSG has a chance tomorrow?
No, but I have a question.
Okay, what's up, Courtney?
On your evaluation, do you give them to the kids to take home with them?
Yes, what we do is we did it through Google Classroom, where we said, on a Monday, by Friday, fill this out. Self-rate yourself from 1 to 5. When we give them the parameters, 1 is not very good, 5 you're already. By Friday, self-rate yourself. How do you, what number, what's your final number? How do you rate yourselves in these individual categories? And that way, on Friday, when we sit down with them at the desk, we have our evaluation. Okay, I have you at a 18. You have yourself at a 15. You don't realize that you're good at this, good at this, good at that. It's a good way for them to realize, hey, we see that you are working hard. Or again, like I was saying, on the flip side, sit down with them and like with the kid that wasn't as committed, we gave him a 1 on the commitment aspect of it. And he gave himself a 4. And he said, I try hard in practice. And then I had to tell him and have that conversation with him that commitment's not about trying hard. Commitment and consistency is, I know who you're going to be from day to day. Some days, yeah, you do try hard, but some days you hinder the learning process. And it was a keeper, and he kept jumping in the shooting line. And I had to tell him, I don't want you shooting right now. And he jumped back in the line. I'm just shooting. And then I had to get him to go work out with my assistant. I was like, go work out with him, because he kept arguing. And then he got kicked out of that practice too. So yeah, and again, he gave himself a 4 after that happened. He gave himself a 4 on commitment and consistency after getting kicked out of practice. And this is where I had to say, you're not committed. You aren't consistent. So again, yeah, we have them self-rate. And again, your better players are going to be so hard on themselves. And we see it in the classroom. I teach English. And when we have the kids grade other people's, if we're doing the STAR stuff, and we look at, how would you rate this 1, 2, 3, or 4? They're always brutal to everyone else. And then, if you could say, well, here's your essay compared to that one, then it's eye-opening. So again, your better players, they're going to be a lot more critical. And this is when they need that pat on the back, and they need that, no, you're a lot better player than you think you are, or you're giving yourself credit for. So yeah, we have them self-rate. We sit down and we say, this is where we have you. And they're going to talk. Like I said, that one year, we lost a really talented keeper, and this was in the spring off season when we did the self-evaluation. I made sure that final number was the same for both those keepers, because I knew they talked, and more importantly, their parents talked at club, or they talked to people at club, and that can cause some discontent, because sometimes we have parents that are not our ally, and if you give them the opportunity to say, well, he just favors so-and-so, he just likes him more, then that can cause some problems. But then again, it can serve as a motivational tool, where you give that kid a 2.5 on something and let them know, I don't see you working hard enough in practice, or you might think that you're technical on your team that's in the alpha, you're playing alpha in WDVOA, but we're playing kids that are, playing Champions League, they're playing ECNL. So what's good on your club, we're talking at a high school level, give them that motivation. That answer your question?
No, how often do you do the rating? Do you do it only in the spring, or do you do it in the fall and the spring?
It's a good thing to do, right? Well, first week or two for us, we don't have 2 separate periods, so they're all in there. So we've got about 50, 60 kids at the beginning of the year. So the first 2 weeks, we kind of whittle that number down to somewhere around 50 to 55. So once that's done, give them a week or so to evaluate the new kids, kind of what your old kids are. But at that point, sit down with them and then talk about that rating, and then revisit. If it's 3 weeks, if you have the time, we don't have time to do it every 3 weeks, but every 6 weeks, revisit and say, hey, this is where you were and this is where you are. We've seen the improvement. And then you want to do one, this is what we are going to do this year, is after the tournaments, if it's a normal season, after the tournaments going into district, we're going to sit down with them and we're going to have that talk, because you need to have those hard talks, because they're either going to happen on your time when you have it ready, or I had a parent conference the day before a playoff game about playing time with the kid. So again, that's my fault. This was years ago. The kid didn't know why he wasn't playing, and the parents didn't understand it. So after the tournaments, right before district, we're going to sit down with the kids and we're going to say, this is where we stand. This is where you stand. I realize you want to be on varsity, but look at all the kids on the depth chart that are above you. Look at the ratings, the numbers. We've got you at a 16.5. You've got this many people that play your position that are rated higher than you in our eyes, the only eyes that matter in this program. We have them rated higher than you. You're not going to play on varsity. You're going to play on JV, or you're going to just play club. So it's hard talk, but it's going to prevent the parent conferences that happen at inopportune times. And it's going to, it's honesty. And I'm not saying do it every week, or if you can do it every 3 weeks, you can, but you're not going to see a lot of growth there. But if you can do it every 6 weeks or every 9 weeks, if you're on that kind of schedule, you need to do it. But you definitely need to do it at the beginning of the year. You need to give them the opportunity to recognize growth. So do it maybe before Christmas or whatever, but definitely do it before you get into district, so that you can have that difficult talk with them and say, you're going to be coming off the bench, or, hey, you are going to be the leader on JV. I realize it's not where you want to be, but you are going to get tons of playing time. You are going to be a role model for these younger players, and you're going to grow. I've been a victim, or been the problem a few times, where I saw a freshman with talent and I wanted to reward that hard work by putting them on varsity, and then they sat. You look 2 weeks later and they haven't gotten on the field, and I've wasted kids, and I don't want to do that anymore. So a lot of this is for me as well. This freshman, he's got potential, he's got talent, but he's 5th in the depth chart, or he's 4th in the depth chart, and he's getting 8 minutes a game. That freshman isn't growing. And it might not be the favorite thing for the kid, because he wants to, play under the lights and all that, but it's the best thing for the player, and it's the best thing for the program. So it's enlightening for the players, but it also helps us justify, this is why you are where you are. I only play about 15, 16 kids in a varsity match. You go much deeper than that, now your starters aren't getting the playing time. So if a kid on that total number is number 19, 20, 21, they need to realize they're not going to play. So if he's a senior and he's number 19 on the depth chart, he needs to realize he's probably not going to play. He doesn't have to be happy about it, but if he's going to cause a fit about it, then things need to happen.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Travis, you got any questions over there? Oh yeah, Travis.
Yeah, I asked in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Let me see if I can find it. Travis, I'm grilling tonight. You want to come over for wings?
That sounds good. I've got some ribs on the smoker right now.
Nice. I did not. Where is the question?
Oh, I just said, what do you do when kids miss competition days, like your dual sport kids? Do the teams have to play down a man? Do you try and level the playing field? How does that work?
Okay, great question. I did not address this earlier. We try to make the teams maybe 11 to 12 deep, and the competitions normally are going to at least incorporate 8 people. Okay, so if you're thinking about 4 teams of 12, now that's about 48 people. If you are not getting in to that first 8 of your team, that means you're number 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever. That means that, again, if this were a competition, if this were a game, you're probably not getting on the field either because you're so far down the depth chart. If a person misses, this also exposes them. I hate to say it like this, but we have kids that miss. And we have that calendar where we say, this is our competition day, and that kid has an orthodontist appointment during the soccer class. And, apparently all orthodontists work only during soccer class for some of my kids. I don't know how that happens, but it happens. So this is where you expose them. Your teammates are relying on you. They had to play short because you had to go get your braces tightened, or, you opted out because you've got an ECNL tournament coming up. And I get it. ECNL is important to you, but this program is important to these other players as well. And I'm not asking you to choose, but there has to be a middle ground. So I try to let them know that I try to do competitions on football game days if I can, if I don't have to travel early, so that there's not a whole lot of distractions. It's a little bit of fun because football days are, it's a little bit crazy on campus. So they know that those are the days that that's going to happen. And then we all have those kids that, quote unquote, are injured a lot in the off season. They don't help their teammates, because if you can't rely on them in the fall, chances are you're not going to be able to rely on them in the spring when it matters as well. So there's really no makeups, but they need to know that they are preventing their team from being successful, and that they're kind of, they're hurting the program.
Hey, Rob, you said that the minimum grade you had for the varsity was about 17.5. Do you have one for the JV as well?
A 17 JV player would be a pretty good one. But as far as minimum, we get what we can get on the JV. But it is good to kind of, when you are rolling into, like I said, our roster and class is overstuffed at the beginning of the year. And that's before we get the freshman football kids in. We always get probably 3 to 6 freshman football kids that played football and they didn't have a chance to work out with us. And then when tryouts come around, we get these kids. So this allows those bottom JV kids that are 11s, 12s, whatever. I hate to give a kid a 1 unless I'm trying to send a message. So, I at least give kids 2s on all of them unless they're absolutely awful. But this allows these kids to know that, hey, you're an 11, you're at the bottom of the depth chart on the JV. If we get, and this is before football kids come in, if we get a large number of freshman football kids that I have not identified yet, you might not make the program. So you need to really work your tail off in these 6 to 12 weeks to get faster, or work on your touch, or make yourself an asset to the program. So as far as a minimum number, if they're below 12, Greg, is that right? What's about the worst JV number?
I'm sorry.
What's about the worst rating for a JV kid? About a 12?
We gave one kid 11.5.
Yeah, we gave one kid 11.5. That was kind of a message sender that you made the cut this year, but if we get anybody a little bit better, you probably won't. So yeah, about a 12.
I didn't know. Do you use that as a tool to for your cuts for the JV that, you know, this was the bottom line, that here's the grades, you know, this, you're not making the team, you're not above the others as far as the point rating, and then you can back it up with that.
Exactly. Something tangible for a parent, because it's tough to go into a parent meeting when a kid doesn't make the team and say he just wasn't good enough. That might be the truth, but it's not good enough for that parent. If you can have something on paper that says, listen, we've got 23, 24 kids that we as coaches rated your son higher. We rated higher than your son in these categories that we think are important for a program. If you can show the parent that here's how we rated them, and don't use names, but here's the ratings of the other kids, and your son is number 27, 28, then yeah, that really helps out. And your athletic coordinator will love that as well. Because again, soccer is so kind of subjective to where, you know, he's good on this, he's good on that. What does that mean? If you have something on paper, and again, I'm guilty of getting the final number first and massaging all the individual numbers to reach that number, because I know I want that. This kid that does not play a lot, if his rating is higher than a kid that plays above him, then you're probably going to have some problems there. So sometimes you are going to have to manipulate things. Can I show my criteria again? I can get my wife in and see if she can pull it up on the screen. Nicole. And I know the slideshow is in the presenter's notes. I think it is. Yeah.
Post the PowerPoint to the resources. You can look at it after.
Yeah, the PowerPoint will be posted to the resources. But can you go back to the slide that shows the self-rating? Here's the brains of the operation.
Hi, Gilbert.
Yeah, if you'll scroll in the chat, it's already been posted to the resources.
Okay.
So whoever asked that, just if you'll scroll up in the chat area, the resource page is already there.
Yeah. Can y'all see that one?
No.
No, not yet. Sorry. Let's see. Is that good? Y'all see it now? So the 5 categories that we have: technical ability, tactical awareness. You know, if you've got a kid, we had a kid that thought he was really good. Parents thought he was really good. And I remember one inter-squad game, he was at right mid, and there's a throw in on the left side of the field, and he's over there. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I made a run, coach. You know, that lack of tactical awareness, that's something that they need to realize. If you have a kid that wants to play center forward, but he's standing next to your center mids constantly, you know, they need to realize that they're not where they need to be. Athleticism, fitness, it's pretty easy. And the confidence and poise, I think that's something to recognize, that you need to let those kids know, hey, we see you battling out there, you know, good job. And then the commitment, consistency, that stuff, mainly for me, that's attitude, and then stuff outside. If there's a kid that is a grade problem, I can give them a 1 right there and let them know, hey, you've got 3s and 4s and all this stuff, but this is dropping your final number because I don't know if you're going to be eligible. So yeah, I know you're one of the best players in the program, but you've dropped to this number because I don't know if I can rely on you. So that's why you're a 15, when technically, you know, athletically, you're one of the best kids in the program. This gives you a tool to let them know that even though that you are talented, you're not an asset to the program until you are dependable. So, but again, I think, yeah, these are going to be in the resources if you want to lose that. Oh yeah, and the other thing down at the bottom, for the self-rating, this was something that really helped us have that real talk with the kids. And the self-rating, have them choose varsity-wise. Are you going to be an integral part of the program, an important person, you know, maybe a starter or maybe a part-time starter, part-time contributor. You're really not going to start too often, but you're going to be that 12th, 13th, 14th person off the bench, or support. That's the important thing right there. If you have a kid that is a great kid, he's a senior, never causes problems, he needs to realize that, hey, we want you as part of the program because of what you do outside the field. You make us better in practice. You challenge our starters. Your positive attitude, you know, is infectious. You are a big contributor to this program because of your support. You might not be an integral on the field role, but your support is important to us. That's, it's just a nice way of saying that we want you in the program, but you might not play a second. But then also you might have a JV kid that thinks he's going to be a starter on varsity the next year. And this is where you get to have that talk with them. Hey, you claim that you're going to be a varsity important player. We don't see that. We're not saying that it's not going to happen, but at this point in our judgment, you are so far down the depth chart, you're going to have to do some climbing if this is where you want to be. And then the best qualities, elements to improve. And I stole this from Gilbert Villarreal. On the elements to improve, don't let them shoot with the non-dominant foot. Everybody can improve that. Don't put get faster. Yes, it can't be something that is so broad and general that everybody could claim it there. Try to be things that are tangible, things that are, and if it is, get a little bit quicker or lose 15 pounds, you might have to put that on there. But see if you can challenge the kids, but definitely not get better with your non-dominant foot. But make sure you do recognize at least 3 things on best qualities. Some of the kids is, punctuality or, always smiling. Make sure you do recognize at least 3 good qualities about the player. All right, what else?
Hey, Rob, I was wondering, do you have just 2 teams, just a varsity and a JV?
Yes, we do not have a third team. In our ISD, we have 11 schools. We have the numbers to have a third team, but if we had a third team, we'd probably have to get a third coach, which means they'd have to hire, X number of more coaches. If you do one for one school in our district, you have to do it for everybody. So it kind of sticks in that way. But yeah, we only have 2 teams, and both teams are in the one athletic period.
Then do you have like a number that you limit, or do you have cap it at a certain number?
I try to cap it at 55 if I can. 60, if you got 60 in the program, that means you've got 2 teams at 30. There's going to be some unhappy people. Biggest cancer on the team are people that don't play. Most people that are playing and scoring goals, they're not the ones that cause the problems. So if I put it at 5, that means that I can have a varsity of 24, and I'm not real good at math. I teach English, so that means a JV that's pretty big. 50 would be a great number. I really do not like to cut freshmen unless they obviously need to be cut, because we all hit growth spurts at different times. Again, I'm not going to burden my JV coach with 30 kids because it's just untenable. But I don't want a JV of 18 if I've got the numbers. I don't want 18, because then you do get the injuries, the flu, and then grades. And then again, we had a kid that he was kind of borderline make the team. He was in the 20s on the JV on the depth chart, but he hit a growth spurt. He got on a new club as well. His confidence shot through the roof. And by the middle of district, we moved him up to varsity, and he scored a goal and had 2 assists in his first 2 games. So it's one of those things. I mean, we weren't going to cut him, but it's just an example of kids in the right situation can blossom. So yeah, we more than 24 on a team, it's tough to get them in. I've had JVs with 28, and again, it's tough. You got to make those hard decisions. But anything more than that, then your locker room gets a little bit nuts. It's too tough to play them. I know my assistant coach really doesn't like this, but I've got a philosophy that on JV, every kid's going to get at least 5 minutes. And my philosophy is, if you get 5, earn 10. If you get those 5 minutes, play so well that you get 10 minutes next game. And again, Coach G doesn't really love it, because we've got some kids at the bottom of the depth chart that kind of keep him from winning. But I'm not a big win-loss guy on JV. I think it's a lot more for development. I'm not saying go out there and lose, but I have told all of my assistant coaches through the years, if we don't allow that kid to get 5 minutes, then why is he on the team? Because again, I'm not about wins and losses on JV. Now varsity, it's different. Our goal is to be as successful as possible and try to win games, keeping your integrity and all that kind of stuff. But there's going to be kids on varsity that don't play, but on JV, if a kid is not playing, then why is he on the team? You probably need to have a talk with that kid and let them be successful in something else.
All right. Well, thank you very much for today, and we'll see you guys next week.